Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Prog Nerd Reviews. Today is episode number 8 of the review series. I can't believe it, we're nearly at 10. Like, that's so weird how time's flown so much since I started my channel and since I actually started doing these Wednesday reviews. I think they're doing well. I mean, a lot of people have left comments saying, oh, I've checked out this album based on your recommendation, so I think that this series is going well and I am not stopping it any time soon, because once I go to uni I think this particular Wednesday series is going to be what kind of carries me through the 3 years that I'm going to be away. And obviously there'll be other stuff here and there, but I think the Wednesday reviews is something that I can actually physically do because it's just sitting in front of a camera and talking about an album, so I don't actually need to pull out any albums or own all my albums at once because I'll just be talking about a review. Now, talking of uni, actually, I will be talking about my new schedule for when I go to university closer to the time that I'm going away. I think I start on, like, in the beginning of September, so maybe a couple of weeks before that I will let you guys know what my plans are, if I'm gonna still do 4 uploads a week, or if I'm gonna have to limit it, because I probably will have to limit it a little bit, but nonetheless, let's just start. So today's album is Space Shanty by Khan. I know a lot of you guys have wondered where this album is in my collection, and I don't actually own it yet, so that brings me on to my first point. Do I own it on vinyl? No, I don't, and hopefully I will be able to soon, because I really did love this album a lot. I really did like it. There will be a day on these reviews where there'll be an album that I don't like very much, but at the moment there's been like a lot of albums that I've really loved and ones that you guys are recommending me that I really like, so I'm not sure, maybe there'll be something that I don't like very much. I mean, there's always going to be something within a genre that I'm not going to like very much. I mean, with metal, for example, when I was really into metal, there was some stuff that I really didn't like, and then there was obviously stuff that I really loved. So, yeah. Talking of metal, that's like another thing that I love. Probably not as much as prog, but just below it is my love of metal, especially kind of early metal, things like Black Sabbath and stuff like that. So anyway, so when did this album come out? So Space Shanty came out in 1972. Now, if I'd listened to this album prior to my 1972 video, I would have put it in, most definitely. This is quite a short album. It's got 7 tracks, and each track is not below the 5-minute mark. I think the last track is 3 minutes, but the rest of them are a good, like, 4 to 10 minutes. So, no, more like 6 to 10 minutes is, like, the range of each track. And yeah, I've written quite a lot about this. Now, just before we start, if you were not aware, I have started up a TikTok account. Now, bear with me. I'm not a fan of TikTok at all. I don't really like it very much. I don't like big trends. That's one thing to know about me, is I'm not a big fan of like I don't follow trends. I mean, does it look like I follow trends? But I made the TikTok to show, I've started like a little series of a day in the life of me. So it's like a week. So every day of this week I've been filming a TikTok demonstrating what I do on those days. So on the days that I film, I'll talk about what I'm doing on that day, and then on my days off, I'll just write about or talk about what I do on my days off. Stuff like that. I mean, I did one yesterday, which was very interesting because Tuesdays are one of my days off, so it gives you a little insight on what I actually do during my days off. Do I still do anything to do with the channel? A little bit, but you can find out all of that, and that's the same handle as my Instagram and my Twitter. It's just at the Prog Nerd, and you'll find it very easily. Anyway, let's get on with the album again. So let's break down some of these tracks. So the first track on the album is the title track of the album, which is called Space Shanty, and what an explosive intro to this album. It just came in strong, and there was some great use of like isolated vocals with just the drum track. That was really cool. I really like that. Also reverb on the vocals, which really helped with the kind of atmosphere of the track. Great riff and some great drum grooves. The harmonies were really nicely done, and a great transition into slower sections of the track. I love the bass lines that are floating around in the background, which I get onto more later on. And I like the use of different melodies being played in different parts of the hearing spectrum. So there was one melody being played over here and one melody being played over here, which was really cool. I really liked that idea, so I could hear both of them working together very nicely. The instrumental section was very reminiscent of Soft Machine. Now, before I did a little bit more research into the band and all that kind of stuff, I just thought, oh, well, this sounds a lot like Soft Machine, until I realised this has got a lot of Canterbury scene musicians on it. So that's probably why I came to that conclusion, because, you know, Soft Machine being a Canterbury band and also some of the musicians on here being from the Canterbury scene, it makes sense. Fantastic lead up to the guitar solo, and I like the use of the delay effect on the guitar solo. That was really, really nicely done. I liked the bass, how it follows the keyboard sections throughout really nicely, and the harmonising of the keyboard and guitar bits were really, really cool. There was a very much a jazz influence towards the end of the track, and a lot throughout this album, which is just typical of Canterbury scene, really. And a very beautiful ending to the track, and a great opener to the album. The vocals throughout this kind of reminded me of Peter Hamill from Van der Graaf Generator, so that's not a bad comparison, I don't think. So the second track on the album is called Stranded, and I think that the lyrics worked really well with the title of the track, because it was like almost about like being stranded, so it was interesting, but not like in the cheesy way. It was like someone actually being stranded, so it was kind of cool. Great acoustic sections, and the chords used were very nice. In this track I heard a lot of the Canterbury sound, a lot, that kind of sound. Smooth key changes, great harmonies, and the lyrics definitely, as I said, suit the title and also the music as well. Piano was absolutely great. I like how it exploded into like a jazzy kind of jam improv section. I'm very much a fan of the improv stuff. I mean, I listen to a lot of Soft Machine and stuff like that, so I do love my jazzy improv stuff. Great guitar work. I like the transitions from electric guitar to acoustic guitar. I think that's like somewhere in the middle to end, somewhere like that. Great transition, that was done well. I like the dynamics in this. It goes from kind of loud and semi-aggressive to very delicate and ambient and atmospheric, which I'm a fan of. Use of chords made the track interesting, and the switches from major to minor were also very well done. If I have to pick, I'm more of a fan of minor key songs. That's just my ear, I guess, but I do love the minor key a lot. The third track on the album is one that I'd actually heard previous to listening to this album, so I was a bit more familiar with it. So this is Mixed Up Man of the Mountains. Great name for a song. I really like the song titles on this album, they're very interesting. I like this, it was a run-in from the last track, so the last track led into this track so really well, actually. So smooth transition from the previous track, great guitar riffs and solos, of course. Use of panning always goes in my... So the next track on the album is Mixed Up Man of the Mountains, which actually transitioned from the last track really nicely. I think that was a really smooth and great transition. Yeah, so I actually heard this track previous to listening to the album, because I think I heard it from a playlist, like a prog playlist somewhere, and I really liked it, so I think that's one of the reasons that I wanted to listen to the whole thing and review it for you guys. I like the use of panning. Panning always goes very highly in my books, because I just really love how you can make something interesting by putting one thing here and one thing there. I mean, it's important to pan during mixing anyway, so that every instrument can be heard and it's not one big musical mush in the middle. But what I mean is like things that bounce back and forth through like that. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that myself. So yeah, that's very good. I like the switch in tempo because it keeps the track interesting, and it's one thing that I do like about prog is that, and obviously how skilled these people are, they're able to change tempo with such ease, and it's very good. I liked the different sounds of the keyboards here, and the and the different sounds, as I said. So I'm only 3 tracks in when I'm writing. When I was writing this, I was only 3 tracks in, so I was very much blown away already by this album. It was a very jammy song. Guitar tone was very good. Oh, such a great guitar tone. And the bass lines are great, and the build up to the end of the track was also very good. It was very, very badass, very cool. I liked it a lot. So the next track is called Driving to Amsterdam. Fitting. I like the guitar and keyboard work, the way they work together in this track. Oh, I don't think I mentioned, but the guitarist on this particular album is Steve Hillage, who's got a solo career, and he was in Gong, but he was also part of this project, so no wonder the guitar work is so good. Smooth key changes again into the keyboard solos, which I always love a good keyboard solo, because as much as I love a guitar solo and very funky bass lines, I do like a keyboard solo. Probably why I like Yes so much as well. I like the main riff at the beginning of the track. Interesting lyrics, but particularly the dual guitar work. So there was one melody playing in one side of my head and one on the other, which I loved a lot because it really kind of worked. And it wasn't just one big mess, it was actually separated, and I really liked being able to hear both of those harmonizing together. I really like the atmosphere. It's a very atmospheric feeling track. I mean, it's called Driving to Amsterdam. If you know what Amsterdam, why people go there a lot, you know, you just look it up. I don't think I can say it on this channel. All you need to know is that it involves marijuana. So the middle section drumming is fantastic. I like the use of the lower frequencies as well, and on the drum kit, not just using the higher frequencies of like the snare and the cymbals and stuff like that, but using the toms and also the bass drum. Very jazz-inspired track. I like the improvisation sections on this one, and they're not too long, forced, or drawn out. They're just the perfect amount that keeps you interested in the album and doesn't drag on, so that's always good. And I really liked this track as well. It was very well structured, well put together, and very well executed. It was a very smooth feeling track, and I think this was probably one of my favourite ones. So next up is a track called Stargazers. I think the only other track that I know that has that name is the one by Rainbow, and that's a fantastic song, but we're talking about this one today. A very intriguing introduction, and the intro solo panning back and forth. There is a lot of panning back and forth on this album, which made it very interesting. I liked the faster tempos of this track and the balance between the chaos and the mellow side of Prog, because you've got that chaotic side, but then you've also got the very mellow side, and I like albums that can have a variation like that. I liked the lyrics on this track, the drum grooves are fantastic, and I like the bouncy aspect of the bass guitar, which I mentioned earlier. I really like when you can kind of hear the bass guitar in the background just doing its thing in the background. I really like that, and I'm learning how to do that myself, hopefully. And the exit solo is absolutely amazing, and I like the key change as well. A lot of key changing in this album, and it works very well. So the penultimate track on this album, Hollow Stone, possibly my favourite on the album. I liked the keyboard playing and an amazing acoustic section at the beginning as well, very beautifully done. I love the bass line, which follows the acoustic guitar. The harmonies were well done, and a great use of the higher vocal ranges and the lower vocal ranges working together. Keyboards are really well done. Solos, again, very beautifully done solos. Overall, just a beautifully put together track, as I've written down here. I heard a lot of the kind of early King Crimson, like, almost influence in this. I mean, there was parts that I thought, this is inspired by In the Court of the Crimson King, or maybe bits of In the Wake of Poseidon. Like, that's that kind of era of King Crimson. Which is not a bad thing. I loved that period of King Crimson. There's the ending of the track actually kind of changed in mood. It went from like a very kind of ambient and atmospheric track to a more explosive and harsh ending, and it was a very sudden ending, and I thought that I really liked the idea of like just a mellow track on the album, so I think that that kind of deducted the points a little bit. Not saying that I disliked the track, I just didn't think it really fit with the whole vibe of the track, but yeah, that's probably why it was less of a higher up rated, but yeah. And the very last track, which I haven't written too much about because it was quite a short track in comparison to everything else. With everything else, there was just so much to digest and dissect from those tracks because they were quite long, but this one was, I think, just over 3 minutes, so I didn't have too much to write because it was quite a fast-paced song as well. It's the shortest track on the album, and it's a very badass song. It's almost a classic rock kind of feel to the song rather than a progressive rock feel, which I have no issue with. I'm a big fan of my classic rock as well. Really cool conclusion of the album. I think it works, and I think the guitar solo was absolutely fantastic, of course, but maybe would have preferred an extended version of this because it felt so fast and it ended so quickly. I maybe would have preferred a longer ending to the album, and maybe a little bit more of an atmosphere to it. The lyrics are great, it's a very badass exit, but I just loved that atmospheric side of this particular album, and I think that if they put a bit more of that into the last track, it could have been a bit higher up in my rating. So, my final thoughts. I really enjoyed this album. As I said, it did have its bits where I was like, but overall I really did love it, and I give it a 8 out of 10, just for the ending, and the ending to the penultimate track were a little bit... I wasn't so much of a fan. I mean, the music was great, it's just I don't think it fit with the actual tracks, and fit with the ending. But my favourite tracks on this were Hollow Stone and Driving to Amsterdam, so those two are my favourites, and purely because I liked that kind of jammy feel, but also the acoustic section of Hollow Stone, which was very good. Okay, so that is the end of the video. So next week's review, I'm not gonna say. I'm gonna leave it as a surprise for you guys to find out because it's actually quite an exciting one. So yeah, you're gonna have to wait for that one. So yeah, Friday's video will be about picture discs because it's Vinyl Community Friday. That's my Fridays. I talk about vinyl and stuff like that. So I'll be talking about picture discs on Friday and why I'm not a fan of them. So you can stay tuned for that. Saturday, again, another Saturdays with Dad. We're going to the 2010s, which will be our last decade coverage video. So I'm gonna think of something to do after that. Maybe hopefully go back to the more proggy stuff again. And yeah, so I will see you guys on Friday, and as I said, if you want to check out my new TikTok account, where I've been doing a little bit of a day in the life kind of thing every day so far of this week, then you can check that out. I will leave a link to it in the description, and yeah, see you guys on Friday. I was about to say see you guys next week. See you guys on Friday. Bye!